What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull-Up Show. I'm your host, Mr. BJ Matthews, a.k.a. B Jizzle. Before we get started, follow us on the YouTube page, the Pull-Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. All of our YouTube videos, hit that like button. Y'all come in here. Let's get it popping. All right, let's get into it, y'all, man. Back at it. Happy Monday morning to everybody, man. I want to give a thanks to everybody coming to support me, man. Game day today for the Clippers, you know what I'm saying? Against the Utah Jazz. I will be in attendance. You guys will see me asking some questions to Ty Lue and probably one of the other players, so stay tuned for that video. But car combos with BJ was back in effect. I want to talk to y'all a little bit about a team that we ain't really, touched on this season so far, but I think is, very fitting that we do. And that team is the Memphis Grizzlies. Not just the Memphis Grizzlies, but their star player, Ja Morant, their star point guard. It's going to be a two-part series, man. And I want to take my time because I want to kind of really get into it and really give my respects and all that good stuff to, Ja Morant. And I want to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies as well as a team. So last night, the Memphis Grizzlies lost 110-116 on the road against the Los Angeles Lakers. They're 18-8. They're the second seed in the Western Conference. I'm going to talk to y'all about what I feel about the Memphis Grizzlies in my personal opinion and, where I think they're going to be going this season. But I want to give a shout out to Ja Morant, man. I want to give respects to him. I'm going to tell you why. We ain't really heard nothing about Ja Morant really good or bad this season. And that's a shocker, being a year removed from, a couple of seasons ago and last year before that where he was, all through the media. Couldn't stop. You couldn't really hear nothing about him, whether it was about his comments pertaining to, I'm good in the West, or pertaining to, his off the court issues and, the gun charges and all that stuff. It was just piling up one after another. Now, Ja Morant's 25 years old. He'll be 26 in August. You know what I'm saying? He's at an age where he's really, the world's at the palm of his hands, or was at the palm of his hands. He was a guy that was looked to be as the face of the NBA. And, if you even just talk about Ja Morant as a player, a lot of people and a lot of young guys, young kids were actually, very, very fond of Ja Morant. The gritty, the dance, you know what I'm saying? The gritty, all that stuff, bro. That was, the thing to go just a couple years ago. You talking about a high-flying, exciting basketball player who got into some trouble off the court. Now, I was very vocal about what I thought about all that stuff going on with Ja Morant. I thought he was, messing his image up. You had people saying, like, oh, he wasn't breaking no laws or no rules. But that wasn't the point with me. The point with me was that, look, when you are at that point in your position and you are representing not just a team, the Memphis Grizzlies, but an entire city, Memphis, Tennessee, that don't have no pro sports outside the Grizzlies, don't really cheer for any other teams except the Memphis Tigers, ain't really known for nothing outside of the Lorraine Motel with MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. got shot at. There's not really much to talk about in Memphis, with all due respect. So you got a guy like Ja Morant who brought that excitement back since the Grindhouse Grizzlies with Zach Randolph, Marcus Gasol, Tony Allen, Mike Conley. You got to be a better representation. You got to be a representation for, the youth as well. And the way he was moving, it just came off as he was just trying to get some attention and clout. It's not illegal to carry guns. It's not illegal to protect yourself. But however, when you talk about how he was flashing guns in videos and, talking about, I'm going to let this person live and all this, the comments he was making, it came off as immature. And he even said it just in a recent interview. The Grizzlies brought in a former MVP caliber player, Derrick Rose, who nobody is, not knowing who he is. He just retired this past season, which is crazy. But, again, Ja Morant said that Derrick Rose taught him how to be a man. Basically taught him how to, move and how to, carry yourself. Derrick Rose, who really comes from Southside Chicago, Inglewood neighborhood. He's saying, and I can only imagine the conversation they had last year, look, you don't want to be in this shit. You want to be, what you're at right now is not where the people that you're trying to imitate trying to be at. You're doing it backwards. You're trying to be a street dude when you don't have to. When the street dudes are trying to be in your positions and have millions of dollars and have resources and have, you know, economic wealth and generational wealth and be able to feed their kids and their families, they're trying to be at where you at, but you're trying to revert back to him, to that lifestyle. And that's pretty much the start and the end of that conversation. There's no point of being that type of person. No point of hanging around those type of people. Let me tell y'all something about me, right? I have never been in trouble with the law. Never. Never been in jail, never been in prison, none of that. 80% of black men, I don't want to get off kilter, 80% of black men will at least go to jail or prison, at least. And it could be for anything. There's already a systematic imbalance for us as it is. I'm not even talking about black women, I'm talking about black men. That they look to lock us up for any type of reason, or look to get us in trouble for any type of reason, or look to business in the system any type of reason. Many people in my family have been in jail for multiple years. Uncles, cousins, things of that nature. I don't want to get off kilter, right? So there's no point of living a lifestyle where you know it doesn't lead to nothing but destruction. It's not a flex. It's not cool. It's not something that you should be trying to, you know what I'm saying, big up. So when you look at that, you don't want to be a statistic. And Ja Morant, and when people come to me and talk about something, well, look, everybody else is doing, look at the white kids, they're doing it, this is it. I'm like, you got to remember, you're always going to be judged differently when you're a black man in America. And you're a successful one, and you're in sports and entertainment, the magnifying glass is going to be on you even more. So you can't measure yourself up to those type of demographic groups, because you're going to lose every time. They're not looking to lock those people up. I'm not saying it as an excuse, but it's the reality. We make up the majority of the prisons, but yet we're only like, I think, 12% of the population. Not even that. Black men, we're single-digit percent of the population, but we make up the majority of the prisons. It's modern-day slavery. I don't care what nobody say. Working, you know, to get pennies in prison, that's modern-day slavery. Hard labor. Lock us up all into one cage and then, you know, basically just, you know, treat us with, you know, like animals. No therapies for all the stuff that, you know, goes on into the prisons. Just like slavery, no therapy, right? Which a lot of us need. A lot of us need therapy. But that's another point. I'm just going to say this. Shout out to Ja Morant for keeping his head on straight, man. You ain't heard nothing negative about him. You ain't heard nothing about him that's he's in trouble. He's hanging out with the wrong people, knuckleheads, and, you know, people ain't going to, you know, be there for him when he gets into a jam. So definitely big ups to him. But with all that being said, I still don't believe in the Memphis Grizzlies, man. I don't believe in them. They're the second seed. They're 18-8. They're doing what they've been doing the past couple of years outside of last season. They're a second seed. It's just the same story to me. Let's go back to 2022 and 2022 when Ja Morant was on top of the, you know, NBA universe. The Grizzlies were the second seed. They got past the Minnesota Timberwolves in the play-in, or in the first round. A series where they really should have lost. Minnesota was better, talented. They just were a dumb team. I've said this before about Minnesota. They've always had the talent. They just a dumb team. They were playing against a young Anthony Edwards. They were playing up against, I think it's the second year. They were playing up against Karl-Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels. Who else did they have on that squad? Jared Vanderbilt. You know what I'm saying? They had those type of, they had young athletes on that squad, but they just weren't disciplined enough to win. There was multiple games. They was up by 20 points in that series, and somehow they let a Memphis Grizzlies team who was pretty young themselves and had a bunch of swagger come back and beat them in 6 games. 2 separate occasions up by 20 points or more, and lost both of those games. Right? So that's why I say I mean, that to me was a series where I think that was just, you know, them playing up against a team that just wasn't, you know, mentally ready enough. The next series against Golden State, they lose that game in 6 games. Ja Morant gets hurt in game, I believe, 3. I give somewhat of that a pass because Ja Morant was doing very well in that series. Okay, so you did well in that series, so you're supposed to capitalize it the next year. What happens the next year? They're the second seed again against the Lakers, who are a playing team them damn selves. And they lose that series in 6 games. And a lot of it came from my personal opinion, Ja Morant doing too much of this talking, right? In 2023 playoffs, they got destroyed. They got beat by the Lakers last night. They were getting killed last night. They were down 49-71. And like I tell y'all about playoffs, it's about matchups. The Lakers are a bad matchup for the Memphis Grizzlies. If they face them again this year, I think they'll beat them again. So you look at their roster. You got Zach Edey. You got Jaren Jackson, who's leading them in scoring right now. You got Desmond Bain. You got Marcus Smart. You got, of course, Ja Morant at the point guard position. You have Luke Kennard. And you got, some other, you got some young up-and-coming players on that team. I feel personally the Grizzlies lost their identity to me. And you can say part of it should have been lost. Dylan Brooks, with his antics, but you see what he's doing with the Houston Rockets. I think they lost some pieces that they should have kept. Dylan Brooks was one of them. Ty Jones for the Phoenix Suns, their backup point guard, where Ja Morant was hurt in the 2022-23 season. Ty Jones became their starting point guard. Look at him in Phoenix right now with the Phoenix Suns, a very great fit. Right, Dylan Brooks with the Houston Rockets. They're the 3rd seed in the Western Conference right now, and they were the 2nd seed for the majority of the season so far, after losing to OKC. They lost Steven Adams, another big that's in Houston as well. Right, they lost him. They lost DeAnthony Melton, who just got traded from the Warriors to the Brooklyn Nets, but they lost him. Was a good defender, point of attack. So they lost toughness, and they lost, I think, experience. I think they lost some grit on that Memphis team. I think they're doing very, very well in the season, but I've seen this before, 2 separate occasions. I can name, like I said, a couple teams that are bad matchups for the Grizzlies. Excuse me. The Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers. Those are 2 bad matchups for the Memphis Grizzlies. So when you talk about that, I don't feel personally that, they're much of a threat, because they're going to have to see them. You got those 2 teams. I think the Suns could beat them. I think the Nuggets can beat them with Jokic and that squad over there. I think they can beat them. I think the Rockets can beat them. I think Houston has enough to beat. Like, there's a lot of teams I feel like Memphis, they can lose to. Right? There's really they're like a team like we just ain't seen enough in the postseason to see. But as far as the regular season, who they lost to in the playoffs, there's like a lot of teams that I just don't think Memphis can beat. I think they're a regular season team. And just like the OKC Thunder, we got to see what they are in the playoffs. Now, I think OKC will beat them as well, but I don't think Memphis has enough depth, and I feel like they got rid of too much of their identity players, their core, to be like still part of that elite group. And I think Ja Morant's game, I think he's playing more smarter. He's saying he's not dunking. He's not going to be dunking anymore. He's, become, again, more mature. But there's still a little bit some holes in his game as well. I think his pull-up jump shot, not to say he has to shoot threes, but even right now how he plays, it's really just he has to shoot certain shots around the basket, teardrops, floaters, and things of that nature in between games. Like, if you have a good shot blocker against Ja Morant like the Lakers do, I think they'll struggle. I think they'll struggle against a team like Golden State, who moves the ball on the offensive end as well. There's a lot of this is too many things that I think the Grizzlies, won't be able to prevail against a playoff caliber team with experience as well. And I didn't even name the other teams like Minnesota, like, the Clippers, and who else am I thinking of? The Mavericks, and those type of teams, they still gonna have some, like, I don't think the Grizzlies are much of they're a first, second round exit to me, put it like that. All right, but that's the last thing I'm gonna say about that. Until next time, pull up a seatbelt chair, put it out. Peace, out of here like swimwear.